It was a quiet Saturday afternoon in a small cozy home in Ohio. The kind of afternoon where the sunlight comes through the curtains in long golden strips and the whole house feels warm and unhurried. A woman named Linda was sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of tea going cold beside her and a soft smile on her face. She had been thinking about her childhood all morning, about the little town she grew up in, about her own mother's cooking, about the summer she learned to ride a bike on a gravel road and came home with scraped knees and the biggest grin anyone had ever seen. The memories felt alive inside her today and she wanted nothing more than to share them with the two people she loved most in the world. She walked into the living room where her 13-year-old son Marcus was stretched across the couch with a controller in both hands, his eyes locked on the television screen, his thumbs moving fast. Her 10-year-old daughter Sarah was sitting cross-legged on the floor nearby with a book open in her lap. Linda stood in the doorway for a moment just looking at them, feeling that particular kind of love that parents feel when they catch their children simply being themselves. She told them she had an amazing story about her childhood and asked if they wanted to hear it. Marcus did not even look away from the screen. He told her he could not leave his game right now and that he was in the middle of a really important level. Linda turned to Sarah with a hopeful smile. Sarah looked up briefly and told her mother maybe next time because she had homework to do. Linda stood there for a moment in the doorway, the smile still on her face but quieter now, and then she nodded and went back to the kitchen and sat down with her cold cup of tea. The following week Linda tried again. The family had not eaten dinner together in what felt like a very long time and she missed it terribly. She walked into the living room where Marcus was once again deep inside his video game and she reached over and turned off the television. Marcus spun around immediately with fire in his eyes. He yelled at her that he hated when she did that and that she always bothered him right in the middle of something important. His voice was sharp and ugly in a way that filled the whole room. Linda told him calmly that she just wanted them to eat together as a family. Marcus stood up and told her she always bugged him when he was playing and that it was not fair, and then he walked out of the room and slammed his bedroom door behind him. Linda stood alone in the living room with the blank television screen in front of her and said nothing. She went back to the kitchen and finished making dinner alone. A few days later Linda was at work and Marcus and Sarah were home alone after school. Sarah was flipping through channels on the television looking bored and Marcus was back on his game. Sarah said out loud to nobody in particular that their mom was always trying to get them to sit and talk. Marcus snorted without looking up and said whoever had time to listen to childhood stories these days anyway. Sarah shrugged and agreed and they both went back to what they were doing. Neither of them thought about it again. The next afternoon the two children came home from school to find the house completely quiet. No smell of cooking coming from the kitchen. No sound of their mother moving around upstairs. No familiar voice calling out to ask how their day was. Marcus dropped his backpack and went straight to the kitchen expecting to find something on the stove, but the kitchen was empty and cold. He called out for his mother but got no answer. He checked every room. Sarah followed behind him, her book bag still on her shoulders, her eyes getting wider with each empty room. Marcus said out loud that he could not believe there was no food and asked what their mother was doing. Sarah said they would have to starve. They both laughed a little, the way children laugh when something is mildly inconvenient but not yet frightening. They ordered snacks from what little money they had and waited for their mother to come home. But the evening came and the house stayed quiet. The sky outside went from orange to purple to black and still there was no key turning in the front door. No headlights sweeping across the ceiling. No footsteps on the porch. Marcus texted his mother's phone and got no reply. He told himself she was probably stuck in traffic or working late. He turned his game back on to distract himself but found he could not focus on it the way he usually could. Sarah sat on the couch with her knees pulled to her chest and her eyes on the front door. Neither of them said what they were both beginning to feel. They fell asleep waiting. The following morning there was a knock at the front door. It was firm and official sounding, the kind of knock that does not belong to a neighbor or a friend. Marcus got there first and opened the door to find two police officers standing on the porch with their hats in their hands and their faces set in that careful expressionless way that people arrange their faces when they are carrying something heavy. One of the officers told them quietly and gently that they had received a report about an accident the previous afternoon and that a woman had been killed. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a photograph and asked the children if they recognized the woman in it. Marcus took the photograph with a steady hand because he did not yet understand what was happening. He looked down at it. And then the steadiness left him completely. It was his mother. Smiling in the photograph the way she always smiled, with her whole face, with her eyes. Marcus felt something inside his chest crack open, like something that had been holding everything together had suddenly let go. He said no. He said it again. No. No. He stepped forward onto the porch not knowing where he was going and said the word mom out loud into the empty morning air as if she might hear it. Sarah appeared in the doorway behind him and saw the photograph in his hand and understood before anyone said a word. Both children stood on that porch and cried in a way they had never cried before, the kind of crying that comes from a place so deep inside you did not even know it existed. Later that night Marcus sat on his mother's bed in the dark. He was not crying anymore. He was just sitting there very still with his hands in his lap, thinking about a Saturday afternoon with golden light coming through the curtains. He thought about his mother standing in the doorway of the living room with a soft smile and a story she wanted to tell. He thought about how he had not even looked up from his game. He thought about the dinner she had tried to share with them and the way he had yelled at her and slammed his door and called it unfair. He would have given anything in the world to go back to that moment. Not to change what he had said or to apologize or to fix something, but simply to sit beside her and turn toward her and say, "Okay Mom, I am listening. Tell me everything." He reached over to his mother's nightstand and picked up her old journal that she kept there. He opened it to the last page she had written on and saw a line at the top that she had underlined twice. It said, "I just want my children to know where they came from and how much love has always surrounded them." He closed the journal carefully and held it against his chest in the dark and sat there for a very long time. The people who love us do not ask for much. They ask for our time, our attention, and our willingness to simply be present with them. One day the chair where they always sat will be empty and the voice that always called your name will be gone, and you will realize that you would give up everything you own for just one more ordinary afternoon with them. Do not wait for that day. Put down the phone. Turn off the screen. Sit beside the people who love you and listen, really listen, while they are still here to speak. If this story touched your heart, please share it with someone you love today. **